Shalom, shalom, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Pulse of Israel here in our eternal and ancestral homeland, the land of Israel, in our eternal and undivided capital, Jerusalem, since King David's time. All right, today we're going to talk about tourism, Israel, diplomacy, or Israel's the way that State of Israel officially puts itself out there, the image to the world. And we're going to be talking to Yossi Greiber, who just returned from a global expo that this year was at Dubai, right? One of the new Muslim Arab nations, states that has normalized relations with the Jewish State of Israel. So the State of Israel had a pavilion there run by Israel's foreign ministry. And Yossi was there looking forward and to see Israel at this global expo where I believe tens of millions of people from around the world are there visiting, and we're going to hear exactly what he experienced. Let's bring in Yossi. Shalom, shalom, Yossi. How are you?
Nice to be here. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. I mean, you came to my attention because I saw that you were sending around pictures and video clips of what you saw of Israel's pavilion at this global expo in Dubai. And you were also referencing to how the Palestinian Authority was portraying its pavilion there, and you were shocked at what you saw. But, you know, before we even go there, do you want to just give a little bit about yourself so people can know who you are, what you do, and why you went to this global pavilion, global expo in Dubai?
I'm Yossi Greiber. I'm a CEO and owner of the JLM Group. It's an entrepreneurship company that has projects all around Israel, and I went to Dubai for a business trip to meet some of my colleagues there. And when I was there, they told me maybe you should use the opportunity because there is a beautiful expo and you should see it. There's many 98 countries from all around the world has pavilions there, and it's a beautiful presentation. And I say, why not? I'm gonna use the opportunity between the meetings to use one of the breaks, and I went there to the expo, and I saw exactly as they told me. There was beautiful presentations of Japan and the USA and Chile and many other countries. And when I was walking in the expo, I was excited all the time that I getting closer and closer to get to Israel's pavilion. And when I was there, I was a bit surprised, even I can even say maybe shocked, to see that it was you couldn't, if no one would told you write the words Israel on the presentation screens on the booth, it could be any unspecific country around the world. It could be representing a Scandinavian country. It could be representing any kind of small European country with no specific identity. The presentation was focused about to show that there is a diversity of communities and people in Israel, like in a commercial of Benetton that you saw. There is Haredi Jewish, Israelis, Arabs, women, men, Ethiopians, Russians, etc. But there was nothing about the connections of the Jewish nations to its roots, nothing about the connection to Jerusalem. In the entrance to the presentation, to the pavilion, there was three big pictures in black and white from Abraham's well in Beersheba. That was like the only presentation of something that is related to Israel, and nothing about Jerusalem during the whole pavilion. So if I should guess before knowing that it's Israel, I could guess that I'm coming to a pavilion that is dedicated to the city of Tel Aviv. Because if it was for the city of Tel Aviv, it was very accurate. There is sand, there is a beach, there is everything that expressed the liberal vibe of Tel Aviv. But it wasn't about Israel, and it wasn't about Jerusalem at all. And when I saw that, I was really surprised. And then I keep on disappointed walking in the expo. And then I saw a huge built pavilion, not a tent, open tent like Israel's one. A huge built pavilion, very fancy, I saw that they invested a lot of money in it. And there was only one word on the pavilion, and the word was Jerusalem. And I was surprised. I thought, wait a second, what's going on here? There is two booths to Israel. One is dedicated to Israel, and another one is dedicated to Jerusalem. I couldn't understand that. I thought in the expo every country gets one pavilion. So I went closer, and on the side of the pavilion, on the building, on the narrow side, not the wide side that everyone sees from the main boulevard, there was in small letters written Palestine. So they used the super brand of Jerusalem in huge letters on the main boulevard. You can see that you are going into to enter Jerusalem's pavilion, and only if you saw in the small letters on the side, you can saw it's Palestine. And the pavilion itself was dedicated to Jerusalem. When you go inside, you see the Dome of the Rock, and the tour guide, Palestinian tour guide, welcomes all the group of people going inside for the tour. Welcome to Jerusalem, the capital of Palestine. And basically they took brand ownership on the brand of Jerusalem, and they expanded the brand and dedicated to talking about Jerusalem. And on our side, if you delete the word Palestine from the Jerusalem pavilion, and you delete the word Israel from Israel's pavilion, and you would ask people, even Israeli people, as a riddle, which one you think represents Israel and which one you think represents, I don't know, Scandinavia, or Tel Aviv, they said, no, it's for sure Jerusalem. This one is Israel's one, and the other one that looks like a tent, maybe it represents, we don't know. You can't realize which country is it, because there's nothing about the pavilion that implies that we are in something that's related to Israel. So I think that it was a double miss of hasbara by Israel, because it's the first time we were invited officially to open a pavilion in an Arab Muslim country that is also considered approximately liberal among other Arab countries. And instead of being proud and representing the beauty of Jerusalem, that is the only actual super brand and actual connection of the Jewish people to its nations, we can only see that there is nothing about Jerusalem in the Israeli pavilion, and everything about Jerusalem in the Palestinian pavilion. So I think that many people who saw Jerusalem and never came to Israel before, they would consider that Jerusalem is one thing separated and it belongs to the Palestinians. And the Israeli booth, they say, well, it's nice. They have a lot of sea, people getting suntan in the middle of November, and there is a diversity of people. It's like a liberal, vague message about peace and love, but nothing that's related to our origins and about roots of power and roots of historical connection to the land of Israel.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the posts that were forwarded on by you about this issue, you touched upon the two reasons why I was crying, and you really touched upon them very well. Point number one, why it made me cry, is we have these Arabs who, again, my words, they call themselves Palestinian Arabs, who have no historic connection to our city, Jerusalem, and they're stealing our history and showing it as if it's theirs to the world. And the second reason why I cry over that is because our own people, whether you call them leaders, whether you call them foreign ministry, bureaucrats, whatever, politicians, it doesn't make a difference. But decision makers in the official state of Israel are making it easy for these Arabs to steal our history, because we are not proudly standing up for our history and our own connection to our land. So like you said, it's a double fisfus. It's a double miss. We're just making it so easy. And then anyone who comes to those goes to that expo, they're leaving saying, oh, Jerusalem belongs to the Palestinian Arabs, and they're leaving without understanding that Jerusalem actually goes back in Jewish history 3,000 years, and there's nothing in Muslim history regarding Jerusalem. So that makes me cry in two levels. And the other thing I want to mention to you is this doesn't surprise me at all. a number of years ago, it must have been like 10 years ago, I was invited to a special presentation at Israel's Foreign Ministry in Jerusalem, where they were launching a new marketing initiative. And they were so excited about it. They said, we've been working on this for years. I don't know, 2-3 years. A new strategic marketing initiative for Israel. And it was really a launch of this new marketing initiative of the official Israeli Foreign Ministry. What was the new marketing strategy for Israel? Well, we don't want people to think about Israel dealing with the conflict. So just like people think about France and they think about drinking wine in a chateau on the ski Alps, we want people to think about Israel in that way. And the whole marketing concept was exactly that, showing Israel as beaches, as women clad in a way that'll make men want to come here and look at those women. Nothing to do with Israeli history, nothing to do with the biblical connection to Israel. And I'm sitting there scratching my head saying, wait a second, this is a marketing strategy for Israel to the world? Well, a majority of the world actually read the Bible. Why are we running away from our natural connection, from our natural identity, which is what actually brings a majority of the tourists to Israel? And yet, what saddens me is because of plenty of the decision makers in Israel, like you saw at the pavilion in the expo in Dubai, they're more focused on trying to look progressive and the values of the month in progressive society, and they want to run away from our own identity. And it's so sad because it's such a huge miss. It's such a huge opportunity that's being missed that you got to see for yourself. Were there other people there who you saw were experiencing those same thoughts and feelings as you were?
First of all, I just want to mention one important thing. I think that, first of all, I want to have a disclosure. When I was a student in the university, it was in the middle of the second Intifada, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs recruited 4 students from each institute, from the Hebrew University, Bar Ilan, Technion, Haifa University, and Be'er Sheva, and took them for a crash course in Hasbara in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and it gave us all the strategy of how to represent Israel in times of conflict. So I know that there is other thoughts and other ways, even in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, of how to do it properly. On the other hand, I think that maybe because the United Emirates are pioneers with the Abraham agreement with Israel, so maybe they had pressures by the neighbors from the other side of the sea, from Iran or from Qatar, or from Bahrain or from Saudi Arabia, to let Israel have a pavilion on one hand, but on the other hand, maybe there is a secret agreement that they're not going to emphasize Jerusalem. Maybe we too strict with judging them. I don't know. I can only know what I see, and I see a pavilion. Think about it, that in Israel, at the peak of the tourism in 2019, almost 4 million tourists came to Israel. Okay, that is the best year since the establishment of the State of Israel. Almost 4 million tourists. You know how many people are coming to the expo in the 6 months that it's open for the public? How many tourists coming for the expo? 25 million people.
Wow.
20 million people were exposed to the sub message in the Israel's pavilion about Israel is Tel Aviv, sea, sun, and bathing suits. And on the other hand, 25 million people are exposed in the first time in their life to the brand and for the of the city of Jerusalem, in Jerusalem's pavilion. And they're now coming back, 25 million people coming back to their countries with the equation of Jerusalem equals Palestine. So it could be the best hasbara, best marketing, strategic marketing campaign of Israel to represent Israel and Jerusalem for a new 25 million admirers. Instead of that, it represented Israel as something vague and a place that you're not sure where you are, and you're definitely not going to remember the pavilion. And in the Jerusalem booth, they gave you a full 5 senses experiences that connecting between the city of Jerusalem to the equation of the capital of Palestine. And I think it's a huge, huge miss.
Right. Listen, I appreciate you giving the benefit of the doubt, and I will say, like you, there are plenty of good people who have the best of intentions and think differently than whatever official decisions are made. But I do know that just recently, I mean, it's not just the foreign ministry, and I don't know it would definitely have to be with pressure from the outside. But just recently, there was a whole marketing campaign by Israel's tourism ministry for Americans. And again, anyone who does the analysis, the majority of the tourists who come from abroad are coming for a religious connection to the Holy Land. And their whole marketing campaign to Americans was exactly how you explained this expo, Benetton, just showing Israel as diverse. And people who saw it were saying, wait a second, but a lot of Americans, they want to connect with the history of Israel. They don't want to necessarily come to Israel because of diversity. For diversity, they can go to Paris. For diversity, they can go to London. For diversity, they can go to New York City. But they're coming to the Holy Land because it's a Holy Land. So again, there's a thread that connects a lot of the decisions made at the top echelons regarding how to market Israel in our ministries that unfortunately pushes away our true and actual selling point as a nation and as a country to bring people here. And that is the historic Jewish connection to our homeland and what it represents, and Jerusalem for what it really represents to us. But I hope your benefit of the doubt is right and I'm wrong.
Hopefully, the only thing that I know of that the expo is a very, very expensive initiative. I think that the budget for this one is something about, let's see, 1 second. You can edit this part out. 1 second. I want to see. I think the budget is something like 50 million shekels. That it's
wow.
Like huge.
Wow.
Let's see what's the.
You're talking about like $15 million they invested in this.
1 second, I'm checking. Okay, so when I looked into the budget of the Israeli pavilion, the state of Israel invested in this project 70 million shekels.
That's over $20 million.
70 million
$20 million was invested into that pavilion. That was a missed opportunity.
70 million shekels that were invested in a strategic marketing initiative that was exposed to 25 million potential visitors in Israel. And all of this amazing, huge budget was used in a way that we're not sure that anyone gonna remember that he was ever visited this pavilion, because it's not so memorable at the way it was presented. But on the other hand, Jerusalem's pavilion no one will ever forget, because when you go inside, they with all 5 senses. You hear the music, Arab music, then you listen to you see a presentation of the Dome of the Rock, you smell all kinds of herbs that they put to give you the atmosphere, and it's very very, very creative in marketing wise. And I'm sure that they already also invested much less, but they delivered the message. The message was simple and it was direct. There is a capital, it's gorgeous, and you must come and visit it. The only thing that they did on their side, by the way, they did deserve a tzalash. How you say tzalash in English?
They deserve an award.
I think that whoever is in charge of the Jerusalem pavilion in Dubai's Expo, they deserve an award, because they did an amazing job, and they were very focused and very proud in what they represent. I think that if you're proud in your homeland, and if you're proud in your capital city and in your history, so you don't need to bypass it with pictures of the sea and sun that could be also in Florida or in Spain or in many other destinations. And it was very focused and very proud in what they represented. And I think that the 25 million visitors that was there will never forget the positive impression of Jerusalem in the way it was presented in this pavilion.
Right, and they left thinking that Jerusalem is the capital of a non-existing state called Palestine, instead of leaving knowing that it's the eternal capital of the Jewish people since King David's time for over 3,000 years. Right, right. Well, Yossi,
Optimistic for again, and as I said at the beginning, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs not necessarily publish every gentlemanly or diplomatic agreement between them and the expo management with the United Emirates. I think maybe they have all kinds of secret agreements about this expo. And I think that the most significant trial and test to see if it's only specific for Dubai or it's a strategy in Ministry of Foreign Affairs is to see what's going to be in Osaka in 2025. Is that going to be again about sea and sun, or are they going to emphasize the story of Jerusalem, the capital city of the state of Israel, and the history of the historical connection and the religious connection of the Jewish people to their land? That's going to be the real test to see if it was a once-in-a-lifetime miss, or it's a part of a systematic way of thinking about the brand of Israel.
and is there any way for you to reach out to contacts and try to find out yourself, or give over your feedback from actually experiencing it, like at the foreign ministry?
When I was shocked by what I saw in the Israeli pavilion, later on I saw on Facebook that there are many other people from the Israeli society, as Rabbi Benny Lau and others, that went to the Israel pavilion and came back with the same impression. So I don't think it's something specific. I think that it's like the majority of visitors, of the Israeli visitors, felt the same about Israel's pavilion. So I think that maybe we should try to reach out to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and ask them to represent the state of Israel in the origin, authentic way, putting Jerusalem in the center, in the middle of our heart, as we say in the chuppah, and also in the middle of our presentation, in the middle of our pavilion for the next expo in Osaka, Japan. Hopefully they're going to change that for better next time.
I hope so. I hope so as well. Well, Yossi, thank you so much for sharing with us your thoughts and experience of actually being there, eyes on the ground, to be able to come back and tell us exactly what you experienced. And I hope you're right. I hope it was a one-time missed opportunity, and that the decision makers correct it for the benefit of all, for the benefit of everyone, all those 25 million visitors, to really see Israel and our eternal connection to our homeland and our ancestral capital, Jerusalem. And for Israelis to feel proud. Obviously, when we go around the world, we want to know we're being represented proudly about what we really are, and not that someone can think we're just another Scandinavia, Florida, whatever, place like any other place. We have so much to offer. Thank you so much, Yossi.
Thank you for inviting me. Hopefully next time we're going to have an inspiring, positive impression of analyzing decision makers here, and give them the full feedback, positive feedback about what they did and how they're representing Israel.
Amen, as they say. Amen. All right, Yossi, don't go away. I'm just going to finish up. We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this talk with Yossi Greiber. Again, as you heard, he was an Israeli in Dubai and was able to experience the global expo, and he saw the Israeli pavilion and what he saw, which shocked him, unfortunately. If this was important information, please share this video. And of course, whether you're an Israeli, whether you're American, whether you're whatever nationality, the key to moving forward to a better world for all of us is to be proud of our ancestral identities. Hold on to those special heritage that we each have and our holy sites, and be proud of them. And that's how we should show ourselves to the world. And that's the draw to make people want to come and visit you and visit your country, especially Israel and the Jewish people. But this is a message for all of us, not to run away from our identities and away from what makes us unique and special, but to celebrate them and to focus on them, both for ourselves and for everyone else in the world, to get excited as well. And if you have not yet visited Israel and seen the eternal homeland of the Jewish people and the ancestral capital, Jerusalem, since King David's time over 3,000 years ago, come as soon as you can. Signing off for another episode of the Pulse of Israel, this is Avi Abelo. Thanks for watching, everyone. Shalom.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.